Hey gang, Louis Goppelt, the Thinker Farmer here. It's a windy Tuesday afternoon at Green Pastures Farm. Believe it or not, it's pretty hot here and out in the sun. This whole week the temperatures have been in the 90s, and I'm going to be going to fuel up the truck, but pretty much for this afternoon I'm lying low, trying not to get out in the heat too much. We start the days early and do most of our work by early afternoon. So we're a few days away from Father's Day, and I wanted to go ahead and share some of my dad's story and some lessons that he's taught me, and I'm hoping to impart and share with y'all. And yeah, that's what this video is about. So my dad, I've mentioned in a previous video, he was a petrochemical engineer. He grew up throughout the Midwest. He was born in Pennsylvania, but his dad was an engineer as well, and he moved around. He ended up going to Purdue to get his degree and became a professional engineer, and he went overseas to Saudi Arabia, where he was working for Saudi Aramco through Texaco. He worked for Texaco for 30 years, and after that he did a lot of contract work, worked for some different companies that were contractors. And anyway, what I want to focus on in telling his story is to realize that, well, I know my dad did well as an engineer. He was an engineer for a good little over 40 years, and he definitely, he had me, and he had 4 older siblings, so he raised 5 kids, took care of me, all of us, and Mom. And we had a nice, really nice upbringing. He made a nice living for all of us, but in the scheme of his life, I don't think it was all the big accomplishments or the really good living or his successes in business that fueled or made up the measure of him as a man or as an individual. It was all the little things that my dad did that produced value, and I think that underscores an important principle that most of us forget, which is that often we focus on all of the, quote, big things in our lives and think that those are what really matter, like what kind of job we get, how much money we make, whether we make all of the right, quote, big picture choices. And I don't want to minimize that, because I think big picture choices do matter. And in later videos, I'm sure we'll be discussing those. But what I want to focus in on this video is that oftentimes making decisions in the big picture will produce success, but it's all the decisions, the little things that you choose for yourself, that often produce the greatest amount of value in you as a person. So what were some big things about my dad when I say they were, quote, little things that he did growing up, him as my dad? First thing is a can-do attitude. Some of you say, well, that's a big thing. Well, to some people, it depends on how you look at it. Whenever growing up, he and I were working on a project together, be it a plumbing job, be it a carpentering job. My dad and I did lots of different handyman projects together. Or even in school, because he helped teach me. I was homeschooled. He was my math and my science teacher. Dad never encouraged me to simply try harder at anything. The first thing he would always tell me is, you can do it. The way I remember him saying it is, if somebody else can do it, you can too. And if you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. And there are many projects that I worked with my dad, and I was always impressed by his patience, almost to a point of fault, with how he approached any project or task. And it was always a matter of time before he succeeded at it. he rarely, if ever, got frustrated with a project. It's as though his engineering mind had already determined that he would succeed at it, and he was just going to steadily progress through it. He didn't just tell me, though, to try harder, as I hear some people say. Work harder, try harder. He always first started out by reminding me that I was capable and making sure I believed that, and then went ahead and exhorted me to go for it. And second thing is, in his interactions and relationships with me, my brothers, sister, and mom, he always made a point to put us first. And it wasn't the big picture things of Dad being home. He was home, but it was how he spent his time when he was home. He loved reading his Bible. He did a lot of handyman projects with us around the home, but usually he was just always there. He made time to interact with us. When he got home, we were his first priority. His desk was always a mess. He was generally, I would say, only somewhat organized enough to get by. But as an individual, he made it his priority that mom first and then us kids. And he always did it with humility and graciousness, deferring to us. He didn't have a lot of hobbies. We were kind of his hobby as far as I can remember. He loved teaching us any new thing, whether it was chemistry, math, plumbing, carpentry. And he always made sure he kept the relationship right. He made mistakes, but I never recall a time when my dad left something that was brewing unsettled. He always made a point to reconcile a relationship and keep things right, at least as far as between him and us. And thirdly, he was always, I said this before, but I'm going to say it again, he was always there. When he got home, he was there. I never recall him really getting frustrated with me for asking for help on anything. He may have not been able to get to it when I wanted him to, but he was always willing. And I apologize for the wind, gang. It's a windy day, but sometimes you just do these videos when you have the time. And he impressed upon me as an individual that sometimes listening is the easiest way to show your appreciation for someone else, that taking the extra time to think something through and just wait has its place. And I recall several times growing up that I would have a question. Sometimes it would be a life question about how to handle a situation. And whether or not he had the answer, he was always there to talk to. And it goes without saying that Jesus Christ was his focus in life. He loved reading his Bible. He loved spending time in the Word, and wanted to see us do the same. So what's the point of me sharing all this? This is the Thinker Farmer YouTube channel, so it really is, it's about farming. It's supposed to be practical. So a lot of what I just shared to you may seem to have nothing to do with farming. So I'm going to try to bring it full circle, because that's something my dad actually liked to do. Every time he would teach me something, math, science, did not matter, he always ended it by saying, how can you apply this to your life? Which is why I often say, what's the takeaway? What's the point to this? Because if it wasn't practical, it was a waste. So, let me say two things about farms. Farms are successful, and farms of any value and real purpose, farms that last. Because if there's anything I hope somebody takes away from this, I hope they take away a good principle that they can use to help their farm last. Because I want to see farms that are at least as long-lasting as people, if not longer. Multi-generational farms usually get the most done. Any farm that lasts is the result of cumulative choice. It's not one decision you make, it's not 3 or 4, it's 10 or 20. Hey Rucker, what's up buddy? It's always cumulative choices. 10 or 20, 30 or 40, 50 or 60 good decisions made over time are what are going to drive a farm through multi-generations. It's what's going to get a farm through a lot of different hiccups. But it doesn't happen overnight. It's not just a one-shot wonder where you make a few good decisions and it's going to work out. It's always cumulative choice. And a farm of any longevity also requires a real attention to all the little things. And I wrote this down. I'm just going to read it. The little choices we make throughout the day are what determine a large portion of our personal effectiveness. So I know the big decisions matter, and that needs to be addressed. But what about all the little decisions? You know, it's a big decision for a dad to, in this day and age, it's a big decision for a dad to be home with his family. That's important. I don't want to minimize that. But what about the little decisions about how he spends the time when he is home? And as a farmer, I realize it's a big decision to be on the farm, to not have an off-farm job, to stay on the farm full-time, and to be creative about how to make money with different things. That's important. But what about all the little decisions? How does the dad or the farmer spend his time? Because at the end of the day, a farmer is the protector of his farm. He is the one that the animals look to, and the same is true for a family. A dad is the protector. He's the person that provides for his family and looks after them. There are corollaries here. And my dad made a lot of little choices when he was home that other dads generally didn't. And the results and the impact on my life and on my siblings' life is, I think, tremendous. It's hard to underestimate it. And it was simply, I'm going to say them again because I think they're really important to your success in farming, and you'll have to apply them in different contexts. I don't know your exact context, so I can't spell it out for you. Having a can-do attitude and impressing that on the individual you're working with or the people around you, being willing to give or sacrifice for others and do so graciously and with humility, and also just being there and listening. Often it's not the little hows and whys. Oh, back up. I'm getting ahead of myself. We often think in life that what we do and when and where we do it is what matters. And I agree. The what is the biggest and most important. But in the long haul, if you're really focused on your long-term trajectory, how you do things and why you do things, which sometimes seem like nuances and just little things, that matters just as much if you're going to have long-term successfulness or effectiveness. I like to use the word effectiveness because success in our culture today has become a very materialistic thing. Effectiveness, I think, helps to focus and eliminate the efficiency and the logistical distractions, and realize that at some point it really is, it's not just getting it done, it's empowering those around us while we do it. Anyway, that's all I've got for today, gang. Happy Father's Day. Anybody out there that's a dad, thank you for being you, for being a dad. And my dad, who hopefully will get to watch this video, you've been my hero for several different life choices you've made. And thanks so much. Blessings.